you are understanding that the variety does help you to choose. And in most cases, when you understand that, when you stand before a jewelry counter or an automobile counter or a food buffet, where you know that you have only to select and then you can receive your selection, you like the idea of variety. And we've noticed that really the more variety the better, because the more options, then the more fun you have in the selection, and the more opportunity you have to select something exactly meaningful for you, yes? If there are only 2 choices, then one might be a little better than the other, but if there are 10 choices, often you can really get down to specifics. And when there is a myriad of choices, as there is here in this contrasting universe, from your non-physical viewpoint, as you are making your decision to come into this focused body, to be this genius, leading-edge creator, you felt exhilaration beyond verbal description at the variety of the choices. But then, you knew something more completely than you may now know. You've forgotten some of what you knew then. Then you knew that nothing would assert itself into your experience. You knew that just because there was a variety, and some of it would please you and some of it would not please you, you did not feel guarded about the part that you knew would not please you, because you knew then about law of attraction, you knew about vibrational offering, you knew that you are a vibrational being, you knew that you would be, even when you came into your body, be a vibrational being, and you knew that you would choose by your attention too, that nothing would assert itself into your experience. We've been having conversations with many of you about the power of attraction and how in this law of attraction-based universe there is no assertion. Nothing can assert itself into your experience. And yet sometimes when there is something in your experience that you don't want to be there because you know you would not have chosen it responsibly or deliberately, and yet it's there, it leads you to a flawed premise that says things can come to me that I don't want. We've been contemplating that with those like you, and we are in the final stages of a new book on relationships that is full of understanding about flawed premises and how there are some things that you've come to accept that just aren't valid, that in the acceptance of them preclude you or prohibit you from receiving clearly, because you have this conclusion that you've picked up along your physical trail, all balled up within you and actively vibrating, and literally holding you vibrationally apart from some of the choices that you are making with your mouth. Sometimes when you say yes to something, you expect it to come, but often when you say yes to something, it doesn't come, and you have to wonder why. If you get what you think about, then why is it that you can't think about something and bring it to you? And we say you do, but what's dominantly active in your vibration is what is coming to you. It requires becoming aware of the thoughts you're thinking by being aware of the feelings that you're having. And in time, you can know exactly why everything that comes into your experience comes into your experience. So as we were having conversations such as this, Esther was pondering it, went to sleep, slept really well, and right before she awakened this morning, in fact, this dream awakened her, in her dream, she is sitting in a beautiful hotel room, not unlike the one that they have here. And as she's sitting there, sort of minding her own business and involved in what she's doing, she notices something out of the corner of her eye, and in the big planter that is running along the wall of her hotel room in her dream, something is moving, and as she looks over, she realizes it is a very large snake. So the snake is, you are clear that this was in her dream, not in her room, yes? Well, of course, at first, it interested her, and then it alarmed her, and then she began really looking at it, and then she realized it was very, very large, and in fact was nearly everywhere in this planter. She could not even imagine how long it was, and in her dream she began calling for Jerry. Jerry, come quickly. And as soon as she called for Jerry and gave her undivided attention to the snake, now a snake bigger than any snake imaginable is coming after her with its mouth wide open. It was the kind of snake that both wants to crush you and eat you at the same time. So as the snake is coming toward Esther and she is screaming for Jerry, and Jerry is standing there sort of paralyzed. He does not seem to know what to do, which is, it would be annoying if she had not been so terrified otherwise. Thinking back on it, she's really quite mad at you. She awakened. And of course, the first thing she wants to do is have a conversation with us. What's this about? And we say, it's about understanding that there is no assertion. It's about understanding that this snake was perfectly happy and not bothering you and would not have even shown itself to you if you had not turned your undivided attention to it. It was not interested in what you were about until you were focused upon it. In other words, we really want you to understand. And then Esther said, it's hard to hear that when there is a snake or something unwanted that seems to be interested in you. And we say, but you have to understand, why is anything interested in you? In other words, how is it? If it isn't active in your vibration, then it does not have access to you. And so now Esther is having many thoughts about this because this dream reality was so vivid and real, and she is still translating it in the way that she translates her human physical experience. In other words, in this dream, it seemed like that snake was after her. But as she thought about it, she realized that the dream is always vibrationally accurate, as is everything in the universe. Nothing happens screwy in your dreams that falls short of complying with the laws of the universe. And as she thought back on it, she realized that that snake in her dream must have been there for a very long time and probably would not have shown itself to her if she had not become so actively involved in it. And we so want you to understand, now this is a little alarming subject. It certainly alarmed Esther. But it certainly is an attention getter when you realize that when you give your attention to unwanted things. Now, we would say that there is a rare one of you in this room who really would want to have that snake in your planter or in your hotel room. Few of you request it when you order a king bed and a king cobra, please. It just doesn't come up. But what we're wanting you to realize is that even though it is not something that you would deliberately ask for, we want you to understand that your attention to it is the asking. And so then you say, well, if I have asked for something without knowing I've asked for it, isn't it logical that then I want to push it away? In other words, when you're thinking of a manifestation that seems to be in your experience, it feels to you that what you need to do, if there is something unwanted, is to find a way of getting rid of it. And this is a flawed premise, because the more you see what you don't want and the more you try to get rid of it, the more you activate it in your vibration and the bigger and louder and more chronic your invitation of it is. You simply cannot get rid of unwanted things. And that's sort of what this dear snake was wanting to let Esther understand. You cannot get rid of unwanted things. So never mind how it got there to begin with. Just accept that there was something active in your vibration that invited it, maybe even a question, maybe a desire for an understanding. But if there is anything in your experience, an unwanted relationship with a neighbor, an unwanted relationship with somebody that you're married to, an unwanted relationship with a barking dog, an unwanted relationship with not enough money, an unwanted relationship with a physical condition that isn't pleasing to you. If you can accept that all unwanted conditions came by invitation, we know that's hard to hear, so don't dwell on it, it'll just upset you. But we want you to know that all unwanted conditions did come by invitation, but that you cannot get rid of them by giving your attention to them in any sort of protest. They just come on stronger and stronger. And so the way to get rid of or deactivate, that's really the word we want you to focus upon. Anything that comes is activated in your vibration, or it cannot come. Anything that comes is active in your vibration, or it cannot come. Anything that comes is active in your vibration. So how do you go about deactivating it? You deactivate it by activating something else. You cannot deactivate a thought, because when you say, I'm not going to think about that thing I'm not going to think about, you're thinking about that thing you're not going to think about. And it's active in your vibration. And there are many things, many manifestations that have at their basis the same chronic activated vibration that just shows itself to you in different ways. Yesterday, as Jerry and Esther were driving from Southerner California to here, Esther was saying to Jerry, I am so enjoying these focus wheels. We'll talk about them here today if you're interested. I'm so enjoying the focus wheel because whenever I feel something amiss in my vibration, I go immediately to a focus wheel process, and I can feel that little by little I am changing my vibration about anything that is troubling, and there is a sort of blanket of calm that is coming over me. She said to Jerry, I really feel that I am becoming fearless. And then she qualified by saying, it's not just fearless, it's understanding that if anything does happen, I can focus will myself back into alignment. So after her dream this morning, Esther is laughing because she remembers many years ago after first meeting us, announcing to Jerry one day while they were taking a walk that she was proud to pronounce that she was now fearless. And at that moment, there was a snake spread out across the road sunning, and both Jerry and Esther leaped higher in the air than any of you would believe if we told you, and ran faster than two humans have ever run for a while, and then pronounced to themselves, maybe we are not as fearless as we have said. So now yesterday, Esther pronounces the same thing to Jerry again, and again, a snake appears in her dream. And the reason that we are giving all of this to you is because we want you to realize that anytime you say, and this is what's happening with so many of you, anytime, every subject is really two subjects, what is wanted and what is not wanted. It's like picking up a stick with what is wanted on one end of it and the absence of what is wanted on the other end of it. Wellness on one end, illness on the other, plenty of money on one end, not enough on the other. So anytime you deliberately activate a subject, in this case, in Esther's case, my fearlessness, the whole subject is activated within you right where you are. And so we want you to realize that sometimes just when you think that you've been thinking about prosperity, that's when not enough prosperity hits you right in the head. Just when you think you're thinking about being really healthy, that's when something that indicates not being healthy hits you right in the head. And the reason for it is when you turn your attention to a subject, the subject activates right where you last left it. And isn't that a wonderful thing? Because as it activates right where you last left it and begins to manifest in accordance with what the activation is or what the vibrational frequency is, now you have an opportunity to look at it and make a new decision. And that's really what we're going to be talking about all day here today. How can I achieve vibrational alignment with the end of the stick that I want? How can I chronically offer a vibration that matches what I do want rather than what I don't want? And it's really understanding that there is a vibrational frequency that, well, let us explain it to you in this way. You've been hearing us, but we'll make it even clearer now. So you were non-physical energy before you came forth into this body, and a part of you is expressing itself in the consciousness that you know as you. So here you are, leading edge creators, brilliant beings who have come forth for the purpose of taking thought and experience and joy beyond that which it has ever been before. So you immersed yourself in this, as we said earlier, perfection of balanced variety and contrast, and from it you get to selectively sift the things that you like best. Now, like all buffets, the consideration of what you prefer sometimes is something that you have to work at. In other words, until you've tasted all of the cookies in the counter, you really don't know what your preference is. And life is sort of that way. As you interact with people who are rude, you come to a different conclusion of what you prefer. When you interact with people who are needy or insecure, you come to a different conclusion of what you prefer. When you're rude, you come to a different conclusion of what you prefer. When you are sick, when you're insecure, when you feel needy, you come to different conclusions of what you want. And what we want you to hear from us in a way that maybe you've never heard before, we want you to realize that as life is being lived through you and by you, that you are constantly emitting these vibrational preferences. You just can't help but do it. And they are being held by the broader part of you. In other words, they shoot like rockets into your vibrational future, where the source that is you, the energy from which you have come forth, receives those and forevermore gives undivided attention to the newly achieved picture of the way you think life should be.